Thanks, Paul. So thank you, everyone. You heard Jay talking a little earlier about when good companies invest in hard times, and when we evolved from this recession, Autodesk is evolving as a great company. And one of the things that Autodesk did during this recession was really put an unprecedented amount of investment into the infrastructure space. So what I'm going to be walking through a little bit today is around BIM for infrastructure, and really some of the areas that we've invested in, and some of what's been happening over the last 2 years, really specifically around BIM for infrastructure. And BIM for infrastructure is happening now. Okay, just to be clear, when we hear about some of the things that are happening around the industry, we hear about, every time we turn around, there's more money that's being dished out, or more money that's being talked about being dished out. What we really have in the infrastructure space, we have about a $41 trillion problem over the next 25 years projected as infrastructure needs just to satisfy existing conditions. Of that 41 trillion, only 20 trillion of that is actually currently forecasted for real spend. So we have a $21 trillion deficit here that somehow we have to be able to make up. The projects are getting bigger, the designs are getting larger, the overall scope of projects are getting much bigger, and we have to find better ways to be able to help our customers deliver on these types of projects. So when we start talking about BIM for infrastructure, we're looking at the holistic view of the planning, design, manage, and construct plan, design, construct, and manage environment. I just got back from China and a trip to Australia last week, and I met with different customers around hydropower plants. I met with customers around the road and highway segments. Met with customers around the rail segments. One of the particular customers in the rail group in China, we had about 30 of his staff involved. We've got a pilot project going on with this team right now. And during the presentation, the chairman of this group called in his entire staff and said, we've decided that this is the direction that we need to go in order to be competitive in the future. He pointed to his entire staff and said, I also realize that we have a resistance going on within the organization for wanting to move off our existing technology and move towards BIM for infrastructure with Autodesk. So what he said to his staff, and I thought it was, especially being in China, I thought it was a really interesting way to approach this, especially in a more public forum, was to say that the employees who actually embrace BIM and start moving 3D and BIM forward in the infrastructure space, he's going to be providing bonuses to them as an encouragement for them to move forward. Those who don't will not receive bonuses. So, I mean, coming from the chairman of this group saying, being very direct about this is the direction that we have to go to be competitive in the future, was an incredibly powerful statement. We heard similar things when I was down in Australia, talking to some of the roads and highway groups. These guys were looking at it and saying, we've been using a lot of the same technology we've been successful with for years. We know it's not sustainable going forward. We know that we're actually being, we have a 4% unemployment environment. We know we're not actually being competitive outside of Australia. We know we have a lot of projects here in Australia that we just can't get all the work done. We have to find newer and better ways to do it. And they're looking to Autodesk and they're looking for BIM as a way to make that happen. So this particular project is one of our customers, a recent BIM Experience Award winner, Atkins, Skanska, Balfour, Beatty. That was right off the tongue. And it's the M25 motorway project. And when you look at it, you say, well, it was really around a 2-lane expansion. So when you think about a roadway project, you say, well, it's a 2-lane expansion. How difficult can that really be? Well, this is one of the busiest highways in all of Europe. So it's not just about doing a design using Autodesk technology or using BIM technology. It's about looking at the overall project and saying, I have an existing highway, I have existing traffic, I have one of the busiest highways in all of Europe. How do I get the construction done? How do I get the planning done? How do I get the coordination done? Where do I stage my materials? How do I get this thing built in time for the Olympics as it's coming up here in 2012? So BIM is not just about the delivery of the actual design. It's about the planning, it's about the logistics, it's about the project, it's about the coordination, it's about the overall delivery of the project. And again, these guys won our BIM Experience Award for really being able to embrace the overall portfolio and being able to explain exactly how they're going to move these projects forward. The U.S. Army Corps, one of the largest single public engineering consultancy firms worldwide, recently awarded a $6 million contract to Autodesk, really follow along the line of the GSA, saying that BIM is the direction we're taking things. We have to be moving in this direction. We have to have better coordination. We're dealing with much larger projects, and we have to be able to move our projects along faster, better, and at a lower cost. And quite frankly, the way that they've been doing things, they recognize it just wasn't going to happen with the old antiquated technology that we're using, and again, looking to Autodesk to help them advance and move that forward. So next I'd like to play a short video. This is a company called RPF Consulting, one of the top 100 civil consulting firms in the US. They've been implementing BIM on a lot of infrastructure projects. This gentleman you're going to hear from, his name is Rob Morano. Very typical of what I've heard in China, very typical of what I've heard in Australia, and we're quite frankly hearing this all around the world, is that BIM is taking off in the infrastructure space. Our customers are looking to us and saying, help us understand how to move this forward faster. They understand it, they get it, they see what's happening in the building, in the vertical building space. They're really looking at Autodesk to make it happen. So I'm just going to roll the video here.
Sometimes the word BIM or model-based environment is defined as or linked to more site development projects. What we've seen is that we've been able to utilize it also on transportation projects as well. We're talking about road rehab, we're talking about alignment studies and these types of problems. Some of the things that we can do is model the road with corridors and some of the other things that are available to us in the various products. And that can not only be conveyed in a visual sense, but then the analysis of that, being able to graphically be able to grab a road and be able to check quantities. We can check all different types of properties of that road, check design speeds. Those things really help us in the long run. Not only that, what we've seen is some great efficiencies in being able to take that model then and use it in other ways. So one of the great examples that we have is we've been able to take that road, put together a surface, being able to export that surface and have that to be used out in the field during construction of an actual highway.
So again, what you're hearing from Rob is what we've been hearing all around the world. And when we start talking about BIM for infrastructure, the question is, what is it? What are we doing about it? And again, when we talk about this, we are looking at the plan, manage, build, and design life cycle. The nice thing about the infrastructure projects, we always start with something. So whether it's LiDAR data, GIS data, some kind of existing condition that we're starting with on every project, we like to say, especially with the GIS information and the GIS data, that we're actually putting GIS data to work. So we're going to take all this GIS data, this LiDAR information, start capturing these conditions, and really start driving designs forward. So when we look at, you heard Richard talk earlier about the infrastructure suites, the infrastructure design suite. When we look at what we're doing around the plan, design, construct, and manage environment, we have our AutoCAD map environment for planning. We have Civil 3D, we have Max for visualization, we have Navisworks in there, we have AutoCAD in there. So we have this complete suite packaged into this one nice environment. And we have our standard, our premium, and our ultimate being delivered this year. Again, with the idea that you plan, design, visualize, construct, and manage your overall process, overall environment. The way that our suites are currently constructed, we have our standard suite, which is focused on infrastructure planning. We have our design suite that's focused on infrastructure planning and design, again, extending your map and your Navis Simulate environment, including Civil 3D, including 3ds Max for visualization, really getting to understand how these projects are going to evolve, how they're going to move forward. And then our ultimate suite stacks all of those things and includes the ability to have Navis Manage in there. So now you can have a complete plan design, manage, construct. So again, one suite from Autodesk, really telling the entire life cycle story. We have something for everyone, regardless of what phase you're working on any project, an infrastructure project, we have something for everyone. There's no one who should be able to look at what we have today and say, no, that's not what we do, that's not where we belong. We always have something in the entire suite that can serve our customers. So next I'm going to provide you some highlights. You're going to be hearing about from two of our industry marketing managers coming up here in just a few minutes, kind of walking through some of the BIM workflows and some of the things we do around planning and design. So I just want to take a few minutes to talk to you a little bit about our infrastructure planning environment. Infrastructure planning environment is really around our Map 3D world, and the way we're approaching this is around this ability for access of data. I talked earlier about the GIS data, LiDAR data, survey data, photogrammetry. It really doesn't matter where the data comes from. Map 3D has over 1,000 different types of coordinate systems in there. So what we really do with Map 3D is we align all these coordinates, we start layering all this information in order to get a really great foundation for what we want to do in the future and what our plans look like. Analysis, there's several different types of analysis. You heard Jay earlier talk about some of the water analysis. This water analysis exists for both Civil 3D and Map 3D. The idea being it's just a different level of granularity, a different level of detail. In Civil 3D, you might be looking at purpose of construction getting down to a quarter-mile increment. In the Map 3D environment, you could be looking at a citywide type distribution. So we included the same type of analysis, similar user experience, except a whole different type of scale for the way that we're approaching our analysis. Same thing on traffic design, traffic flow. Again, we're including this just at a different level of scale. And then ultimately, our industry models. So industry models is really this way of being able to connect things like pipe systems, roadway systems, all of these industry types of models, let's say, and being able to interconnect them. So let me give you a little bit of an idea of what this actually means to us. So when we have Map 3D last year, what it really was about was where something is based on coordinates, XYZ coordinate, really around the location. What it was things like the GIS data and layers of information. So we thematically look at information based on where it is. So you had the what and you had the where. We've integrated TopalBase into this environment to make a single product. So now we can actually have the where something is, what something is, how these things are interconnected. So I use an example of if I had a hydropower plant, and I know that I have a certain amount of rainfall that's going to power that plant. I know the release that I'm going to release from that plant in order to have energy. The energy is going to be transmitted through transmission lines. The transmission lines in turn go to a hospital. In the traditional GIS world, all of those things are separate. In this world, we create the relationships that says, I know that hospital is directly connected to that transmission line that in turn is connected to that hydropower plant. I can start mapping these relationships. More importantly, I can start looking at what I want to do with them in the future. So I have this idea of I know what things look like in the past. I have an idea of what things look like currently, but what am I planning for in the future? Am I going to be extending that power line? Am I going to be extending that water system of that pipe? What is the history of the existing power line? When is it due for an upgrade? So now what we have is we have this complete environment of where something is, what something is, how these things are connected, and when, with the idea of past, present, and future, and being able to scope these things out again for the idea of better infrastructure planning for the future. So thematically what this looks like, if you looked at Map 3D in the past, it was always based on this idea of a single coordinate. Again, we have thousands of coordinate systems, but a single coordinate where you're layering in all this vast amounts of information. What we've done when we integrated TopalBase into this is, again, we've created these workflow rules, we've created security management. We've also created the ability to connect to any database. If you're familiar with TopalBase in the past, it was very dependent on Oracle. We've now taken this so you can have it on a single desktop where you don't have an Oracle dependency, or you can connect into Oracle if you want to, or you can connect into SQL Server if you want to. You can connect into CRM systems, you can connect into other GIS systems. So what we've done is we've taken a very desktop approach around where something is, what something is, how these things integrate together, and also past, present, future look. So you can deal with small companies and you can deal with large enterprises as well. So again, just kind of wrapping it up here, what it is, where it is, when it occurred, and the rules that interconnect all of these fundamental parts and pieces that are associated with infrastructure. So when we ran this out, or we brought this out to our customers, we had a beta launch, I think it was about 2 or 3 months ago, and we got customers coming back saying this is the greatest thing ever. When we initially introduced this to customers saying we're going to take this TopalBase environment around this rules and management and all this asset information, blended together with the GIS world, they came back to us and said, you can't do that, you'll never be able to do that. Same customers who actually beta tested the product. So we're really proud and really excited about really including TopalBase into this package, making a single Map 3D environment for the purpose of better infrastructure planning. And you'll be able to see a little bit of the power of that a little bit later when the NAR gets up here. So the next thing is around infrastructure design. We've spent an enormous amount of time and effort around road and highway design, working with some of the leading design firms and DOT firms around the world, really delivering what I call cutting edge technology. We're really changing the way people are thinking about both their designs and what they can produce at the end of the day. We met with, one of the customers that I met with was a road transit authority in Australia. We were talking about their existing workflow and what they do. And we showed them what Civil 3D could do around road design and what we've been working on. And they came back and said, yeah, our designers can do the same thing using a different product. And then we showed them how quickly you could change. So it wasn't just about making the initial design and putting it down on paper. It was things like changing the alignment over 5, 10 feet and watching everything kind of propagate in the background and watching the parametrics take place so that they didn't have to redo all of their drawings, they didn't have to recreate their model. That fundamental shift, they looked at it and they said, we can go through 15, 20 different alignments on any single project, and that right there they saw as the cutting edge way for them to get more productivity out of their design teams and be able to accelerate their projects that much faster. So that immediate feedback around what they were doing. You also heard about things about how we've integrated in some of the analysis packages and visualization packages as well. The whole idea here is as you're doing your modeling, your analysis can also be running, and it should be part of your design, not part of a post-design. So in the past, you'd create your design, you'd send the information over via file, you'd load it into an analysis package, somebody would do the analysis, send it back again. Now you can get this integrated in just the same way we get integrated 3ds Max and the Dynamite package into Civil 3D. We can get instant graphics visualization, get the same thing out of your analysis piece as well. So we're taking this information from the model, using that information to drive analysis, using that information to drive visualization. And then you heard Rick talking about BIM 360. And what we've also done is we've integrated bulk collaboration into Civil 3D with an integrated buzzsaw on there as well. So being able to extend not just to your immediate team, but also to extended teams within and behind your firewall, but also to other consultants you might be working with outside your firewall. So very exciting stuff that we're doing around the design space, and our customers recognize that. We've got rave reviews, not just around what we're doing around putting the calculations into the model where they actually belong, but also things around level of detail, where we're now able to take about 5 to 10 times the size of projects, start moving those forward within our civil design environment, and then integrating in the Vault and Buzzsaw environment, being able to, again, share your project with a larger part of your workforce, plus deal with far greater projects and far larger size projects than they've dealt with before. So where are we headed? Okay, so I said that we've been putting a lot of investment into the infrastructure environment, and one of the things you're going to hear about tomorrow is really what we're doing to take BIM to the next level. But I did want to touch on just a couple of things we've been working on. So we've been working on a utilities design modeling package that is really geared around both the idea of BIM modeling, so the same kind of techniques, same kind of things you see around the rest of our infrastructure environment, but also very rules oriented. So everything knows what it is, where it belongs, how things are interconnected. That same rules environment that I mentioned coming from TopalBase is built into this environment. So we have this underlying GIS environment, underlying rules environment, very rules driven, very engineering driven, and very model centric. So bringing BIM into the utilities and infrastructure space as well. So what we've delivered here, or what we will be delivering here sometime this year, is really the best of planning, design, and manage in one seamless package for being able to work with utility companies to get their job done. The next thing, and Jay touched on this one a little bit as well, and this has been posted up on Autodesk Labs, for those of you who don't know about it, but this is Project Galileo. And what we looked at with Galileo is this idea of kind of a SketchUp for infrastructure, which is I want to be able to conceptualize what my plans are in the context of what's already existing today. So whether it's the city of Boston, or whether it's the city of San Francisco, or the city of Sao Paulo, I want to be able to capture existing information, be it via GIS, or via LiDAR, or any other technique. I want to be able to model that city out in a short amount of time. When I say short amount of time, we recently had a model created 40 minutes to create the city of Boston. Not picture perfect, not max level of rendering, but enough that you can see that it was the city of Boston, and now I can start planning for the future. So how do we want to start planning for the future? We want to start sketching in new data. I say sketching in data, but what I'm sketching in is roads, highways, bridges, trees, and every time I sketch it in, it's added to that GIS database, and it knows that I'm sketching something else new. I can take that information, I can start moving it through my design phase. The same way I can move GIS data through Map today into Civil, I can move from Civil back into Galileo and represent my information again. So really what we're talking about here is an information flow and an information transfer for being able to plan, design, construct, and manage your infrastructure that much easier. So this is really exciting. Again, you're going to be seeing a little bit more about this tomorrow. And it's changing kind of the face of infrastructure. It's giving people the idea of what can be